and he's going to the Green Bay Packers. And Josh Jacobs has made the rounds, the former Alabama star, and he'll be a big-time star in Green Bay, was lamenting on a podcast about being a Raider for a few years.
I remember coming to the league and losing my first game, and I was mad, not talking to nobody, and a vet come up to me and like, this the NFL, like, you gonna lose. I'm like, so y'all cool with losing? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was so different. And then the most frustrating thing about it all, I feel like, especially when you got like me, you know, Tay and Max, and you got guys that come in every day and work hard, and you don't get the results. You be close, but every year you close, but it's not, it's not winning.
Yeah.
You know, I've said this before. It always makes me happy when I see somebody that works really, really hard. I'll get called by people in my industry, or I see athletes get drafted by really stable organizations, because I've been very lucky in my career that I've worked overwhelmingly for really good companies, stable financially. I had 2 years in Tampa, and it was an absolute circus. I mean, I could go on for hours. Our general manager at the time once told people not to park in a certain parking lot, and 2 days later, he had his Porsche parked sideways, taking up 4 spots. It was a circus. Employees, bosses hitting on employees at Christmas parties, people getting fired left and right, a weatherman who dressed up a dog in dresses on the set. 5 o'clock news at one point was on a couch that I kept falling off of because it was too slippery. I wish I was making it up. It was a disaster. A lot of good employees, though, but you couldn't do your best work as an employee because management was a revolving door full of clowns. There's only so much you can do. People I work with was great. The reporters were great, and the anchors were great, and the producers were great, and the people at the desk were great. And that's the Raiders. And Josh Jacobs is telling you, this is what it's like to be in a dysfunctional organization. I mean, Green Bay is going to be Disneyland. Lush gardens, functional, smiling employees. The Raiders are that carnival that shows up and they host it in your high school parking lot, and one of the carnies says before you get on the tilt-o-whirl, I wouldn't sit in that chair. We've had some problems with it. Raider fans are so odd and delusional. They get very angry because they're all over the country, and they're always asking you, how do you think the Raiders will do this year? I don't know. They're in a division with Andy Reid, Sean Payton, and Jim Harbaugh, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and a very promising rookie named Bo Nix with 61 college starts. And the Raiders have a defensive head coach who has $28 million in financial debt because of car dealership things gone sideways. He's an interim coach, a former player who's never been a full-time head coach. And again, Andy Reid twice a year, Sean Payton twice a year, Jim Harbaugh twice a year, Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and potentially a really good college quarterback turning pro, Bo Nix. I don't like the Raiders. They've been over 500 2 times in 21 years. The ownership is poor. The division's good. Their quarterback's a journeyman. I don't think it's good. And I'm really happy for Josh Jacobs that he goes to an organization that in the last 20 years in Green Bay has made the playoffs 14 times. And do you know how hard that is? Do you know, this isn't college football where the good programs go to bowls almost every year. In the NFL, half the playoff teams annually don't make it the following year. And the Packers 14 times in 20 years, Super Bowls included. That's really hard to do. So for anybody out there, sometimes I think fans don't quite understand that the NFL's a little bit like your life. There's only so much you can overcome if you've got poor ownership and bad bosses. There's only so much you can do. Josh Jacobs, best running back in the country in high school, first or second best college running back, is going to crush in Green Bay. With the Raiders, he was really good, but the dysfunction he constantly had to overcome, muddled leadership, is just a killer for employee morale and momentum. So I'm always happy when people who work hard land in a spot good ownership, smart executive leadership. I've said this before. When anybody ever calls in my business, I always say, there's a sea of money. Don't chase it. Chase good management. There's a finite amount. So that, if you're a fantasy football player, my take is with a very young, talented offensive line, Matt LaFleur, Jordan Love, an excellent tight end receiver depth, Josh Jacobs is going to crush. He is good. There's not that many great defenses in the NFC. Even the good teams like Detroit and Green Bay don't have great defenses. Rams is a young defense. It's not great. San Francisco's getting older on defense. Josh Jacobs for the Packers is going to crush, and I can't wait for it. Happy for the kid. Team USA, Chris Broussard joins us next to talk about it, and you've staked your claim in the never-ending battle for hot water at home. Here comes the dog. It gets go. Hour number 3. Thank you for joining us. Serbia goes down to the United States, 105.79 FS1 in Abu Dhabi, and welcome in everybody to the herd. We're on hour 3. So as we have discussed, as we predicted, this Olympic team in terms of depth of talent is really stacked. Whether our starting 5 is the best all time, sometimes I think sports fans struggle with the reality that your teams in all sports get better over time. Nutrition, training, athletes are just bigger, better endurance. But I think we do have an Olympic team that is as I think it's the deepest Olympic team I've ever seen.
It's okay to say it's the best Olympic team we've ever had. It's okay to say that. 2008 was excellent with prime LeBron, Kobe, Wade. And then, of course, 92, the Dream Team was exceptional. But their competition was horrible, Colin.
Yeah. It's better now.
Yeah.
So I have been watching. There's the Netflix show Receivers. Very good. Also Hard Knocks on HBO. Get it on HBO Max. And the New York Giants are the team in the focus. And there have been these little moments where you get a sense of what's going on in the room. And there was a scene last night that proved to me just how dysfunctional the Giants really may be. So there's no school, no certification, no degree to be an NFL general manager. Some of the guys are analytic guys. Some are former players. Couple owners think they're GMs. There's really a wide spectrum. Minnesota's GM went to Princeton and then went to Stanford to get a master's in economics and then was a trader on Wall Street. And then the Niners GM was a player and a broadcaster. John Lynch, a friend. In the dysfunctional middle, Cincinnati, the Bengals, Cowboys, their owners are the GMs, which is laughable. So you go from traders to Wall Street traders to tycoons. It's all over the map. I can only judge you, therefore, on the results. I think the Jets' Joe Douglas is good, but he whiffed on left tackle and a quarterback. I hated both, and I'm not a GM. And I could see Zach Wilson wasn't going to work. So how good is he? Bill Belichick's the best coach, arguably, in the history of the sport. And the last 7 drafts, which he's controlled in New England, there's almost no Pro Bowlers. He's awful at it. Awful. I mean, his last draft, he had 3 guards, 2 kickers for the slowest receiving core in the league. He's just lost. The Bears GM's interesting, Ryan Poles. He was shaky early. The Chase Claypool move didn't work. Velus Jones, 3rd round Tennessee wide receiver, bust. But he's been really good in the last 18 months. So he's taken some swings, and he's hit on a lot of them. I kind of think he's an interesting one. He's also helped rebuild the offensive line. But the one thing I do know about being a general manager, and I got a lot of friends who do it, you got to have some sort of relationship with the owner that's comfortable. You have to trust the owner. You've got to be able to read your owner's temperament. Sometimes the owner has kids in the building. Sometimes the owner can be, like Jim Irsay in Indianapolis, a little impulsive. Sometimes, almost all the time, the owner thinks he knows more about football than he does. But there was a moment in this. So John Mara is sitting there on the table, and this is before Saquon Barkley in free agency left for the rival Eagles. And the GM is Joe Shane, a handsome young guy from Buffalo. He's got 2 underlings in the chairs. Watch all the body language with this and listen as Mara